story to tell. Mm-hmm. Don't they? I mean, if they'll let me tell mine, I'd just be happy to rave on.
Boy, we're sure lucky Auntie Sharon and Grammy Kay came to visit us.
You know, I always say I have a big heart. I love a lot of people. The old lady. There I am.
When we were younger, we were sons and daughters coming out of the water, holding everything. Now we're older, making sense of the moment, standing out in the open to find the light again.
Say hi, Gigi.
Hi, Gigi.
We're making a video for Grandma Kay and Gigi for you, just to tell her how much we love her and miss her. And one of my best memories with Grandma Kay is when she met Taylor for the first time. And Gigi was the only person that Taylor would let hold her for the entire weekend, practically. So I knew that they had a connection, and it made me feel so special because I always had a connection with Gigi too. So the fact that my daughter had a connection with her made me really happy. And I think she knows what a special person she is.
Grandma came up to Marquette when I moved into my first apartment living by myself. And she came and helped me set up all my pictures and my bed. And she hung out for the whole weekend. We got to hang out. We went to Moe's Steakhouse and just had a great time. We went to Benihana and we walked along the river. And I just remember being really happy with Grandma. And we just hung out, you know. She helped me, and she was my first college visit. And we had a great time. I was sick and slept on the couch, but we made it work. And the second time she came up, it was to move me out. And we did a bunch of cleaning. It was clean when I moved in, and Grandma helped clean it, and she helped me clean it when we moved out. So.
My grandma and I share a lot of similarities. We share the same birthday, and I've always found that to be very special, getting to celebrate our special day together. And of course, I have her name as my middle name, Catherine, which I've always loved. But I found out another similarity that we have when she came to visit me in Denver years ago. This was probably, well, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, when I was in the middle of getting my pilot's license and I was living out there, and she came to visit, and I didn't even know that she also had lived in Denver. I think when she said she was like in her early teen years. And so she showed me around her neighborhood, which I thought was pretty cool, that I was living in one of the towns where my grandma had grown up. And I told her, I said, you know, I was scheduled to take a flying lesson while you were here this weekend, but I'll probably just end up rescheduling it. And she said, no, I would love to go and fly with you if I could. And I said, well, that would be, you know, a really special thing for us to do. So I kept my lesson scheduled, and we went out with my instructor. And I learned that day for the first time that my grandma also had gone to take flying lessons when she lived outside of Seattle, and I think in Bellevue, and she told me that she would fly in the same type of single engine airplane that I was flying, and she would fly out over the water to take off. That's how the airport was set up outside of Bellevue, and which is a pretty scary thing, I think, when you're first learning to fly an airplane. And I've always known my grandma's a very adventurous lady, and I think I get a lot of that from her. And I just thought it was so incredible that flying was something I was really passionate about doing, and I really went for it, and I had no idea that anyone else in my family, well, I guess Michael Steve, but I never knew that my grandma had done that kind of thing before, and I just thought it was like another really cool connection that we shared. And I'll never forget that day we went up and we got to see Denver from that amazing bird's eye view that you can get in a single engine airplane flying pretty low to the ground. And she just seemed so excited to be there the whole time, just like me, and never seemed afraid with me at the helm, which was nice. And we flew over Denver and practiced touch and goes so I could practice my landings at the airport. And she is the only person who's flown with me still to this day outside my instructor. And it's just a really special memory that I'll always have.
One of my favorite memories with Gigi. We didn't get a whole lot of one-on-one time just because I didn't live in the same area, and when we were there, people were always doing stuff. But hold on, we're making a video. But one time, it was probably 10 years ago, Grandma, we went to the zoo, just you and I, and it was one of the best things ever. And I remember we got lost on the way there, and then we finally made it, and no one was there because it was freezing, and we were both so cold. But the polar bears were dancing around and swimming, and all the animals were out, so it was a fun time. But really, it was just fun because I got to spend time with just you, so that was really special to me.
I wanted to have a few words on behalf of Kay, because she, in some ways, was the most unique and greatest mother-in-law a guy could ever have. I didn't really get to know her till she moved in with us. I was just finishing my residency after medical school in Kansas City, and we lived in a little house on Maple Circle. And she came to live with us in our basement. But very soon, I realized who Kay really was. She wasn't down there very long, and next thing I know, she's got a job. She worked for a travel company, I think it was Mopinter in Lawrence, Kansas, where she was born. And she started taking guided tours to Hawaii and then the Far East. On one of these trips, she met some staffers from Bob Dole's, who was a senator at that time, and he was going to be running for president. And so she quit that job and started working for Bob Dole election campaign, I believe. She moved to Washington, D.C. from our basement, became very popular in Washington, D.C. as well, and very knowledgeable, working with the swamp people there, I guess, as she would call them now. Then, after that job, met, while back on a visit to Kansas City, a guy named Gail Kane, and he worked for an insurance company named Aetna. And I think she met him at a bar. He was there with one of his buddies, and they struck up a conversation, and then ultimately a relationship. But she went to work for him, and in short order became the top-selling annuity insurance agent, certainly in the Midwest, and one of the top in the United States.
I just want to make a really quick, brief little video about why I love you so much. I think you are one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. You have lived so hard, loved so hard, played so hard, worked so hard, and it just gives me chills about what an amazing person you are and what you seep out into this world and shared with us, and what an honor it has been to have a relationship with you.
I wanted to share a little tiny story of when you moved into the Sheridan in their memory care. You were just aghast because these people were so much older than you were. They were all old and they couldn't remember anything. So we all thought that was pretty cute and pretty funny. Truth be known, you were probably one of the oldest, but by far the most beautiful and the sweetest. At the Sheridan, you met a little lady there, and her name was Jennifer. I know you'll remember Jennifer. She couldn't talk anymore, and most of us were afraid of her. I was afraid of her. I was afraid to engage with her. But you weren't. You went right up to Jennifer and showed her so much love and compassion, and she really loved being around you, and you were so nice to her and treated her like a real person. And I love that about you, Mama. You love everyone, and you are so nice.
You know, I talk to a stick if they talk back. I think caring, I guess. Caring enough to listen to somebody that I'm usually pretty good at, and I can usually meet somebody and tell their whole life story and their dog's name and their telephone number.
Well, tell me what you guys did growing up in Lawrence. What were some of your...
We played outside all the time. Oh, yeah, I love to swim.
Where'd you swim?
Jayhawk Plunge.
Is that like a watering hole? Or
Not there anymore. It's a park now, but was when I grew up. And my mother taught all my friends to swim.
Your mom was an excellent swimmer and excellent
diver.
And one of the few women like that was able to do that.
I really liked, my favorite dive was the jackknife, though.
The jackknife, okay.
I've seen her do that. I saw her once. I saw you once do that. And
that was a long time ago.
Bathing caps, you know. You had to have a
Yeah,
bathing
you
cap.
just could still do it for a long time.
And it was quite a sight.
I have had a very interesting life. Max, I have so many funny stories.
I know you do.
I can't tell you. I mean, like when I bought all the herd of 500 Charolais cattle, bought them down in Missouri somewhere, farm. I am a risk taker. I took 500 people from Cleveland, Ohio to Rio de Janeiro. I walked all over that town at night by myself. My advice has always been to laugh a lot. Try and make fun out of things that are like, what do they say, make lemon pie out of lemons or whatever. I think laughing is really important. To be able to laugh at yourself and kid each other and joke.
Hello, Gigi. It's your fattest, oldest grandson who loves you so much. He loves to tell you lots of really bad jokes that even you think are funny. And I got a few of those for you, but I just want to tell you that I love you. I miss you. I wish we could see you. I wish things were different. But I want to tell you, I was just thinking lots of funny stories. Like about how you used to take care of me. My parents were out of town when I was in high school. Those were good times, weren't they? You know what I'm talking about. And all the Chiefs games that, you were the one that indoctrinated me into going to the Chiefs games. I think those are your Chiefs tickets originally, maybe. I'm not sure. Or maybe you were connected somehow, but anyway, that's a legacy that will go on forever. And I'll never forget the time that we went to see the Chiefs game, and you were like ready to go, and I was not ready to go.
I haven't known Catherine very long, but I did get the opportunity to go out for her 90th birthday party in Kansas. And it was so nice to see everybody there celebrating her. And I haven't had a grandma since I was 5. So it was nice to think this is everything a grandma should be, an inspiration to her grandkids, and so beloved, and a matriarch of this big family that's come from all over the country. And my favorite part was when Jason was up on stage and Grandma Kay yelled out, "Jason, my firstborn grandson, I love you." And I thought she sounded like a groupie at a concert yelling at her favorite band. And how nice that is that all the grandkids know that she is their #1 fan. And it was very sweet. And I'm sure it meant a lot to Jason and everybody else.
My favorite story about you is the first time I ever met you was in John and Sharon's kitchen. And it was one of those things that I just walked directly into the screen, like boom, like face plant, really ugly, awful. And you were in the kitchen and you were like, oh honey, I hate when that happens. And I was like, oh my God, I do too. And I'm like, hi, I'm Rachel. And I'm the one. I'm sure you've heard about me. Hi, nice to meet you. And anyway, I just love that. You were so tinky and so nice to me. And it was just the beginning of our love.
She met this guy named Jack. And Jack was from New York, and he had a history of growing up in the northern New York Finger Lakes area. He thought he'd make a fine captain, and I guess so did Kay. So she bought this Sea Ray yacht, and they started boating in the summers in northern New York, and then in the winters they would go through the lock system and come down to Florida. Quite a life. She then upgraded her yacht to a bigger one, and I think she did that for 7 or 8 or 9 years. She eventually sold her boat and came back to Kansas City, but the arc of her life from being, for the first 50 years, basically a school secretary and a housewife and a mom, even though she was very athletic and beautiful and talented and smart, to being an independent woman who conquered the Far East, Hawaii, Washington, D.C., Kansas City, and points in between. She was quite a remarkable woman, and I was very honored to have known her and to be her son-in-law.
It's the 4th, so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. I drove up to the lake, and Grandma and the whole family was up here. I came with Riley late because I had a night school class. And as we walked in the door, everybody was sopping wet and shivering and crying. And we were like, oh my God, what happened? Grandma had fallen into the lake, and Rachel jumped in and took off all her clothes and saved her and pulled her out of the lake. Actually, I think it was Memorial Day, because that's why they were so cold. And she sunk like a rock, from what I heard, and it took all like 4 of them to get Grandma up on the dock, but she was safe and sound, and we partied that night.
Well, I don't think it would be appropriate to talk about Grandma Kay without a vodka, because nobody loves a nice cold cocktail more than Gigi. I started hanging around with Zach Eubank, let's see, oh my gosh, trying to do some math, 20 years ago, about, yeah. And one of the first times, actually the first time that I got to meet the whole family, it was Wavo's 60th birthday party, a surprise roast. And Zach brought me to the house for the little pre-party, and I walked into the kitchen, and Gaga, Sharon, and Gigi were in there, and they both looked at me and said, well, you must be Rachel. And Gigi had probably done like 50 questions with Zach, because she knew everything. She was on it, and she was so vibrant and so special, and we just clicked. And at the end of the night, she told me that Zach was one of her favorite people. Not her favorite grandchild, though. I think she said that to everybody and about everybody, but that she really just loved Zach, and that he was a kind-hearted person and a tender-hearted person. And it was so cool, because all the things that she said about him, he'd echoed about her. And I know that as a kid, Zach spent a lot of time with Grandma and lived with her, and they just had some really special times and some special memories. And all the best parts of his personality, as I got to know her over the years, him over the years, and her, were straight from his grandmother.
I think the last time I saw Gigi was for her 90th birthday, and we all drove up to Kansas. And I remember the night before we had the performance, I was so nervous. And then I woke up and Tucker was sick to his stomach. He was so sick. And so that day, my mom drove him home, and she took Susanna with her, sorry. And so they went, and then we went and rehearsed everything, and then we went there, and everyone was there. I saw so many people in our family, and I was so happy to see everyone. And then we went up and we sang, and then we had the big after party. And
What did you sing?
I sang Born to Entertain with Wiki and Never Enough from The Greatest Showman by myself. And I remember just having a really, really fun time, and everyone said that I did such a great job, and that was just a really happy memory of Gigi.
And one funny story about Gigi is that for probably the first, I don't know, maybe 5 years that we were together and into our first years of marriage, every year for Christmas she would give me underpants. Good underpants. And I always thought that was so great. And Zach, I was like, oh my God. I was like, don't tell her to stop. Nobody ever buys me good undies except for your grandma. She's also a good pajama. I was going to say she's also a good jammy giver. Jammies and undies. Oh goodness. I remember when Polly was born and she came up to Des Moines. I think she was there day 2. She couldn't stay away, and she sat in our chair in our living room and held that baby for hours, just hours. I'd take the baby and nurse her and give her back. And when you're a brand new mom with your first baby, you just want to hold that baby. But it was such a special thing for her to get to have that and see that, and Zach's first baby. And there's just, there's always been such a cool thing between the two of them that one thing I've always said about this family and marrying Zach is that he has so many strong women in his life. Not just his mom and his sister and his stepsisters, but his aunt and his cousin, and all of that made him as a partner really appealing because he knew how to defer to women and respect women, but all of that trickles down from the matriarch, which is Grandma. There's no question.
I've always looked up to her in her adventurous spirit, and it's taken her all around the world, and much the same for me. And I find that I keep finding myself in funny, similar situations, living in the same places she's lived. I ended up living in a place in Scottsdale that was about half a mile away from where she lived without even knowing where she lived. And I hope to continue in her footsteps and find, interesting, amazing things along the way. And she's really paved that path for me, so.
When we were at the lake house, and I remember we were watching that movie. What was it? That movie about the wine country and grapes in California, and I can't even think of it right now. But it was a really good movie, and I can actually appreciate it now. And at one point, this guy, I don't remember why, but he was running naked through the vineyard. And he looked up at everyone and he said, well, that's the first time I've seen a penis in years. And I was probably 12, and I just looked at you like, what do I say? What do I do? Grandma just brought up a penis. And it was kind of awkward at the moment, but now I laugh about it, and I think it's hilarious. And that is just you. You have no filter. You'll say what you want, and you're just a hilarious, happy, wonderful person. And for that, I love you. And you're always there for us in caring and giving, so we miss you so much. And I love talking to you on the phone. So I hope to talk to you soon.
Hi, Mama. I love you so much. I hope you're enjoying your movie and your video of everyone telling you stories. And I just want to tell you how much you mean to me, and you have taught me so much in my life. And one of the most recent things you've taught me is compassion. I thought I had compassion, but I realized that I don't have as much as you do. And you have just shown me a lot in your sweet ways. You have been through a lot over this last 5 years and have aged beautifully and gracefully, and I hope I can do as well. Put through the things you have been put through. But you are beautiful, a woman, and have done such a great job.
How do you want people to look back and remember you?
I've had a good life in spite of what I say. I've had a good life. I think that family is probably the most important thing in my life. It has been all my life. All of my children, they have all made me proud.
And now I'm seeing angels overhead. I found me standing in sunlight, all become brand new. I'll be an anchor and fall together to find me. When waters rise, I'll become like you.
Say bye-bye, Gigi. Alright, we love you.
I just want you to know I love you and I miss you.
I love you, Graham Dog.
And I love you so much. And mwah, mwah, mwah.
I love you.